Hey everyone, it's Isaya. Welcome. This is Things Women Don't Talk About with special guest Tracy Kissoon. Welcome. So, this is a special edition of my podcast episodes, and we are live, or maybe if you're catching us live, you will see the live icon somewhere. If you're not, well, that's the replay for you. This is being streamed on various channels, and after we're finished, it will also go on my podcast and maybe on Tracy's YouTube channel as well. So, first of all, let me remind each and every one of you, who am I? So, I'm Isaya. I'm an artist. I'm a magical, pragmatic inspiration mentor and tech coach. I'm a goddess teacher, a traveling priestess. I work with the Greek goddesses archetypes, and I facilitate sacred retreats worldwide. I'm also a tech coach for spiritual online entrepreneurs. I help them untangle the tech and rock the online world while remaining sane and true to themselves. I have a podcast which is called Isayas Inspiring Evenings, and I started this new series, which is an interview series, which is called Things Women Don't Talk About. And the idea is to have a conversation with a guest around topics that are seldom discussed, whether because they're difficult or because they're not serious enough to be broadcasted, whether because they're too mundane or too sacred, too dark or too light, too taboo or too fun, because no subject is off the table. And tonight I am talking with Tracy Kissoon. I am so excited to be talking with Tracy tonight. So, in a few words, Tracy is a chartered physiotherapist, the think out of the box kind, definitely. She is a chronic pain specialist, an aquatic therapist, an author, and a speaker. But maybe, Tracy, you want to say a little more about yourself before we proceed to discuss the subject. I'm so excited. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. No, I think that covered it. I mean, it's hard to explain who people are. I think one thing I would say is that I have lived the reality of chronic pain. So my kind of science background and understanding about pain, and then understanding or reaching the parts, the Heinegans of why things were the way they were, and I'll go on and talk about that really. So I feel suitably experienced to talk about.
You are. I'm pretty convinced that you are. So the subject we are tackling tonight is chronic pain. And chronic pain is one of those seldom discussed subjects outside of the medical professions. And that's why I'm so excited that we take it outside of the hospitals, basically, and we can discuss it in another with another perspective. So I wanted this conversation to be around the reality of chronic pain, but also some of the myths maybe around it. And I hope that we can end this conversation with Tracy helping us find some ways that we can reduce our pain and get going on the rewiring our brains, reducing our pain journey that you are advocating in your Facebook group, for instance. So, yeah, I have no questions. Just, what's the reality?
I quite like that structure. So the reality of chronic pain, it's probably the number one health problem in the world, in the developing world. 68% of people go to their general practitioner or their GP for help with pain. Probably of those 68%, maybe at least 30 have had symptoms that have gone on for 6 months or more. Now, it's not just, I think the thing that the medics and the science gets quite caught up with, well, if you've had this for 6 months and one day you are now chronic pain, that is not how it works. Pain is a biological protective function. And in today's world, meshed in with trauma, this is what we're learning. So the central nervous system, pain cannot happen without it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it happens, that's where it's processed, and that's where the messages are then sent back to those body parts to say, yes, there's damage. So you know,
Mm-hmm.
you feel pain, and so you
Do something
decide
about
whether
it.
you will. Yeah, absolutely. Now the problem is that it loses that function the longer it goes on. It is no longer protective. It is then actually a disease in its own right, because it changes how. And if I get too medical or too
Yeah, I'll interrupt.
please do, because I either get really off on the, that bit, or I get too woo or whatever. But it's trying to balance the physiology and what's actually going on in the body with what's going on with the emotions, which is what's also going on with previous experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that of the people that are suffering with chronic pain, there's fibromyalgia, which is something a lot of people have heard of. It's because they have been primed. Their nervous system is already waiting for something to happen. The straw that breaks the camel's back.
Oh, so it's not like anyone could experience a bicycle accident and then get into the trauma, the chronic pain.
Well,
It doesn't have
that
to be that
can
way,
happen.
or is it or do you mean to say that it's easier if you've been primed?
Yeah, it's much more likely if you've been primed.
Yeah.
And that was a really
priming.
So what I mean by priming, so if that person had a bicycle accident in the context of cycling home because he's lost his job and he also wants to divorce his wife, and he's perhaps discovered that he's got some issues with sexuality, he's primed. He's primed. Okay. Or if as a young child he was premature birth.
Oh.
Your nervous system is a little heightened, it's immature, it over responds to input, particularly those who are a bit older. The younger babies now, they have different problems because they're kept alive, because that even when their nervous systems are so incredibly immature. But how they're kept is maybe better than when I was a prem baby and you were just shoved in an incubator and that was it, which actually you either lived or died. It was easy. It was straightforward. But
if I hear you correctly, it means that some of us have got kind of the box is ready for the thing to happen in it. The box is, you then get the gift, but you already have the box. And some others, luckily for them, have less chance because they've not been primed by emotion, trauma, the bicycle guy that we're talking earlier on. So if he goes back home and he has an accident because he's overjoyed and he does because he just got a promotion, he's less prone to falling.
Context matters, absolutely. But also,
that's amazing.
Yes, it is.
Isn't the body such an amazing thing?
And also, if you grew up with abuse, physical, mental, emotional, or alcoholic, you had an alcoholic parent, or you were caring for a disabled parent, you are primed. It's and I think for me, so I wrote a paper about this for a module for my master's a few years ago, and I noticed a distinct and other factors, genetic, miscellaneous, and I was like, what are they talking about? And the other thing I think that the medics and scientists do, they separate how the central nervous system doesn't say, oh, this is emotional pain, we'll put it over here. No, it doesn't do that. Your central nervous system processes it the same way. So rejection, repeated rejection, your brain your central nervous system will actually respond as
Mm-hmm.
if you were being. So this is a very primal, basic biological thing. So
Mm-hmm.
this
Yeah.
rejection begins to be processed as if you were being thrown out of the tribe. And that, we know what happened when we get
Mm-hmm.
thrown out of the tribe. We did not survive. So this is deep stuff.
Yeah, but what is completely, you know, I'm kind of flabbergasted. Oh, I love using clever
Oh,
words
I
like
love that word. I love it with a French twist as well.
because it's like, so first of all, it's 60, how many percent? Go again? Because this number, I think we
68%.
have to repeat that.
Yeah,
68 freaking
68%.
percent of people are in pain, which, or at least consult for pain, which is enormous. And then what you're telling me is that pain is emotional pain, mental pain, physical pain. They're all one pain, but they're not at all treated like that from the mainstream medics and industry, right? Because if you're sad, nobody tells you, you know, that this is pain. It's considered mental health
Absolutely.
issues.
And also, you know, the changes that occur. So the thing that really defines it becoming chronic or it becoming counterproductive to us is when it no longer serves that biological need of protecting you. It works
Mm-hmm.
against you. And so I think the other massive thing that I've discovered, and I get so excited about it, it's sad but it's good, is what was the thing that I was excited about? Oh, I've lost it. What was I excited about?
Well, I was discussing the supposed difference between emotional pain and physical pain,
Okay, so
and
it alters. So these ongoing inputs into the central nervous system alter how you process. I think that's really key. Through physiological mechanisms that are well known, they're well explored. If you want me to chuck in some scientific lingo, I'm happy to do that. Things like
I'm not sure it's necessary. What,
no,
what I think what I think is fascinating is that, so we have a pre-pain or a predisposition to pain that you don't, obviously, you know, we're not saying, and I hear you, that if you're not primed, you have no chance at all of falling into chronic pain, but still you have more chances if you're primed. And then the pain itself, or the chronic pain itself, or the pain becoming chronic, creates more pain, if that's what you're saying.
absolutely right.
So
Your
it's kind of,
central
we get used to it and then we create more of it, obviously
um
unconsciously, right?
it's well, what happens is then the brain, parts of the brain start to interweave memories, associations that you're not even consciously aware of. So your processing machine changes. Yeah,
That's fascinating.
it is how you process. And I think there's been some really eminent, interesting neuroscientists, and they're saying actually your inability to extinguish the memory of pain. And they call it memory. It's not conscious memory. It's like it's your tracking. They're like viruses, if you like,
It's
in
like
your
my,
system.
yeah, it's like there is a pathway, a neurological, I guess, pathway that my pain goes, you know, and the whole thing is beyond my control, and I can't turn it off, basically, even though the cause might not be there anymore. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, basically. And
Is
so
it
there are
something similar to um uh, the common fact, or I think the well-known fact, that some people who have been amputated still feel the pain in a leg that is not there?
absolutely, yes,
So
yes.
it's this, but even if you do have all your limbs.
Yes, it's that, but slightly different because you have everything intact, but the way your central nervous system, and by that I mean your kind of processing units, your spinal cord, your brain, and the organs, or not organs, the structures within the brain. So there are some key ones. Some of them actually grow. So the ones that sense the danger grow in size. The area of your brain that has higher functions, higher thinking functions, higher discrimination. Yeah. Prioritizing being a really good example. Those actually lose matter. They shrink.
Oh, fucking. So literally when we say, I'm experiencing so much pain, I can't think straight.
Yes.
It's a fact.
It's
a reality. It's not a way of talking.
You literally cannot access your thinking. And another part of your brain that normally processes your internal environment, your heart rate, your temperature, how's things going, Tracy, inside. That faculty, it's called interoception, that also changes. So it starts to think you're in pain and sends out the smoke alarm when you are not. So everything starts to be a bit counterintuitive. It starts to work against you a little bit. And because I do love my sciencey bits. And then there's another part, which
what I love, sorry to interrupt, but what I love about the sciencey part here is that it makes it, we said we would discuss the reality and the myth. And what I found fascinating is that the myth seemed to be more on the scientific, old-fashioned way of thinking, and the reality more on the new way of neurological ideas that come today.
This is new published work. So I wrote a paper and I discussed a gentleman that I was seeing, and I really had to dig deep and then start to understand what he was showing me. And that's when I learned about his higher cognitive function, his brain shrinking, his the fact that his body was telling him, giving him messages that were just blatantly not true. And also this idea that one feels overwhelmed a lot comes from. Now, some scientists might hop on here in a few years and say, that woman was talking about default mode network. And yeah, she was wrong. But essentially, there is this, when you're resting and you're not focusing on a task, okay, your brain connects with other parts of your brain. That's normal. But it's not taxing. That is different from if I'm focused, I'm writing notes, I'm reading, I'm concentrating on driving. So that's termed the default mode network. And we know that also changes, and that the brain never truly switches off or rests. So you get when you're in the chronic pain cycle. So that's 5 massive changes in how you process that have huge knock-on effect.
The change. You were talking about the body temperature earlier on. You means like, and mostly we have been conditioned in our scientific world because of this world that we live in the developed countries is very much based on scientific progress and theories. We have been convinced, whether willfully or not, that what we can see, touch, and feel is real, and all the rest is not. And now you're telling me that basically I can experience a different temperature, so unreal.
Absolutely.
Although I can experience it. I can think that I'm stupid at some points just because I'm in pain. Or I can,
you can feel basically emotionally completely
the one thing
overloaded. Yeah.
Sorry. The one thing that supposedly we can trust, i.e. the signals of our body, are fake or can be.
Absolutely. Misleading us.
Misleading. And so then, starting to believe in things that are not visible and not touchable might be more real, which, you know, makes for some laugh. Kind
And
of, you know.
so just understanding that gave me such, I always have had compassion for people suffering, but this just gave me another level of what they're fighting against day in, day out. So it's bad enough being in pain, as I know, day in, day out, but it's all the other stuff, the sleep disturbance, the way your brain just gets completely fried. This is the non-science way of putting it, you know, and the overwhelm and the inability to prioritize tasks. I remember crying over a basket of washing. It just felt like too much.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's really so interesting that, you know, that we've again, even on a scientific way, we're managing to dissociate from our bodies again.
Yes,
One
and
of
I
those
see
things.
what the beauty of knowing all of this, I think, is then actually the answers become obvious.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because guess what? What is our central nervous system telling us? It's telling us that we have become disconnected. We have become overloaded with messages from the outside world and the inside world. It's telling us that our actual structures within our brain, from the membranes that fizzle together and pass on chemicals to the wider physical structures, they change to adapt or maladapt to this crazy new way. And I just think it's so symbolic on so many levels, because
It
literally
is.
that person in chronic pain loses themselves, their sense of who they are, how they fit in. They're not nothing, is their whole world becomes kind of upside down.
What I think fascinating, or what I find fascinating, sorry, I'm losing my words here. So, is that there are so many, you know, popular sayings around that. But now we've got the scientific evidence to back the people that have been saying that for years, maybe, you know.
Absolutely.
I'm in so much pain that I can't think. No, literally, you can't. It's not that you are stupid or doing something wrong. It's that your brain has actually shrunk at this minute. So
And
it's like,
you also, yeah, you also lose the ability to work out how to physically do a certain movement, which is kind of tied in with interoception and a little bit of because your sensory and motor cortex here in the halves of the brain, that changes.
yeah, and if I hear you correctly, the one thing that reunites these 5 areas that changes is that when in chronic pain, you lose part of the ability to find solutions to your chronic pain. So you're kind of, it's a double whammy, basically. You not only are you in pain, but you cannot access the ideas and the strength and the courage and to actually get out of it or do something about it. So it's kind of a double vicious circle where you kind of
And
trapped
so,
like
now I don't know if you've heard of Gabor Mate. He's a Hungarian Canadian. He's done a lot of work around children and addiction and how that changes the brain and trauma. And he's written a new book. Now, he's quite a controversial figure, which of course I love. I'm immediately attracted to that because that's where the genius comes out, where people are willing to go against the grain.
yeah.
And he is saying what many people have said, but I guess he says it in this wonderful, eloquent way. But he's saying, actually, and I'm saying this is what I do in my programs. I'm like, actually, you lose yourself, and your job to get through chronic pain and rewire is to go searching for yourself again.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It is. It is such a beautiful thing. And I had this conversation with a lovely, lovely man, and he got that. And I end up crying. Like if I see people face to face, I'm crying with them as we go through their story. As we,
Yeah, because obviously, if I hear you correctly, considering the importance of the priming, one of the first things that we could do if we wanted to tackle chronic pain is look at the story, look at where we come from, look at the past and the immediate past, so the circumstances or the context, like you said, before the pain
can be
started,
so many. Is where
and the rest.
And it's having that courage, because we are taught, and I mean, this was a man, and no disrespect to the opposite sex, I love men, but they do struggle much more to accept emotions, or it is seen as a weak thing, like, and a society doesn't help us. I think we're a lot better, but we've got a long way to go. So to help that person and witness their story, that's part of the biggest ways that you can help yourself. If I'm getting overexcited and getting ahead of myself, let me know.
No, that's fine. I think you're perfect.
I think
it makes so much sense. The science is so, well, at least to me, it's so understandable. For I'm not a scientific person. I don't know anything about anatomy or physiology, but you make it sound really like obvious, kind of. But I'm pretty sure that well, I am not. I'm for now. I'm really lucky, and I'm not in chronic pain. But I guess if I was, having someone like you, who is capable of seeing, of pushing me basically to go into this storytelling and remembering the emotions that were there prior and what happened, is priceless, basically.
And it's an honor. I've always felt that working with people and their stories and who they are and what they divulge is just like the greatest, most wonderful part of what I do. And I think so there's there's many different ways to explain it, but the explanation that I use that in a way makes it acceptable, palatable, if you like, is that so I described it particularly to this person like this. Every time you undergo a stressful situation and there's no resolution, or things are difficult, or you have to move away, or things aren't said, or somebody dies in the middle of it, that leaves a trace in your nervous system called a neurotag. And I just kind of put it in a very male way. And I said, my job and your job at this point in time is let's go and find as many it's like Pokemon games, isn't it? Let's find as many. See, I told you. And then I just burst out and I'm just inappropriate. I love it.
No, you're not. It makes it so clear, So what you're saying is let's all go, let's spend some time with our own stories and find the tags. And that is like finding the Pokemon. So basically, it's all the things that I can see shining, glowing with suffering, basically, in my story. They, like the Pokemon, are glowing with, whatever they are glowing with. It's like, obviously, that the painful moments or the stressful moments.
Yeah, it's not so easy, I think, for people to pick it up themselves, but it's possible. It's really possible. And some people are just better at it than others, because some of us are just very factual about what happened in our lives, and we don't understand the neurotag that it's left. I'm one of those people. Shrug my shoulders and like, oh yeah, well, it is what it is. And you don't quite connect, because it is quite painful. It's quite a painful thing to acknowledge, but it's incredibly liberating and freeing. And sometimes
But when you're saying liberating and freeing, I wanna point out that you were not talking about some woo little pony liberation. I feel free, and there's rainbows and meadows, and we're talking about liberation from actual pain.
Yeah, liberation from those neurotags that keep your central nervous system over processing and burning out from all the overwhelm
and in this loop of repetition
absolutely
of the
and you're basically teaching. So I guess I'm saying, okay, you look for the neurotags, but you calm an overwhelmed nervous system down. So it's akin to, instead of having all the lights on and a radio on in one room and a TV on and motorbikes constantly going up and down, actually you switch off all the lights. You make sure you can't hear the motor. There's so many different ways to explain it to people, and that you find the color that you love and that you want to surround yourself with, and you physically sit in that space with that color. There's just so many. You're a writer and an artist, so you know that there's just so many ways to kind of find the key in.
Yeah, but what I hear is that, and that's why I'm so happy that you came and talked about this, because it has layers. It's not just, let me sit down and meditate that I'm living in a blue color and that everything's going to be peaceful from now on. It has the, hey, have you looked at your story? It has the, have you looked at the neurotags? Have you actually been there and faced those things that were painful, and felt the
pain. And you have to consistently calm the nervous system. So
and calm the nervous system. So but you can't just do any of the three and just hope for that it's going to magically make everything disappear. So
it's
there are
quite
ways.
an intense process, and what I've noticed is some people are really up for it.
Well, I guess so.
And some people actually aren't. And however much I want it for them,
maybe we can say they're not yet. Maybe they will at some point.
Yeah. Do you know, maybe I just planted the seed, or I'm not their person to do it with.
Yeah, obviously.
You know, or they're just not ready to go there.
Yeah.
And then
I'm really, really fascinated by this conversation. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, you're so welcome. I was a bit nervous because I don't want to sound too out there, and at the same time I don't want to get too Nerdsville, although I love a bit of geeky. And then I think
it's what makes it fascinating is that I've been around the woo world or the spiritual world for many years now. And there's a lot of conversation going on that involve unicorns and
rainbows,
flowery meadows, and and I can fix anything with a positive affirmation. And I've always felt that there is something missing there, something missing. On the other hand, I am blessed with a very, very brainy scientific son who says that none of the unicorn stuff exists. So it's the other extreme. And I'm so excited that basically both can connect and enrich each other and help people to get out of their rut. So we're talking tonight about the chronic pain rut, but I believe that this mixture, let's put it this way, of spirituality and science, or of emotions and science, is, I'm going to go big here and say it is the way out of where
I love you. You've said what I want. Yeah, it's totally, we have to integrate both of them. And so what ends up happening, so the science is validating what people who've been in chronic pain have been saying.
Yeah, which is amazing,
Which is wonderful. However,
for people who are in pain, the first thing must be to be heard. You know, when science says, yes, you're right, that's exactly what's happening, what a relief, you know, you're not crazy
Mm,
anymore.
mm.
You're not
And
crazy
I
anymore.
remember being taught this 30 years ago. Like, listen, we don't know everything yet. This is the philosophy I live by. I'm like, listen, there are no wrong and rights. I'm not here to judge you. Tell me everything, especially if you think it's not relevant. And my job isn't to judge. My job is to help you piece it together and hand it back to you and say, listen, this is maybe how you got here. And these are the bits I can help with. So we've identified, yes, we've got the story. You find where the neurotags are. You find a way to remove the neurotags. Ironically, that's slightly, I wouldn't say easier, but once you know where they are, you can choose what takes your fancy. There are many ways, you know. But the key, I think, that's often missed out, if you leave the nervous system in that place where you've taken the neurotags, they've understood the story and the priming, and they've owned it and they've let it go. My feeling, or the science and what I've learned, both personally and by studying it, is that you must then rewire, because the central nervous system will go, well, you know, we've been doing it this way and you haven't given us an alternative. So we'll just go back to what we've been doing. All right, thanks.
That's
So
the way I
along will
know
come
how
the
to
next.
function.
So the rewiring part is key, and fun also, because it really overlaps with spiritual practices and self-love on a deep level. And I was just so happy to send 2 links to 2 books, 2 audio books. Love Yourself Like It's the Most Important Job in the World, or something like that, by Kamal somebody or other. I should be a little more grown up and have reread that bit. And how to unfuck yourself.
I love that.
And both of them are sort of different sides of the same coin. And it's about changing how your central nervous system has adapted. And you can. That's the most exciting bit, is that you can. Our brains are, our central nervous systems are freaking off the chart amazing.
Well, if they can convince you that you're in pain when you're not,
when there's no tissue damage, when there's actually
when there is no reason, well, then they can do the reverse as well, you know, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's actually, it is for once, there is a linear relationship in this, yes. And so that's where things like meditating daily, so that means that the nervous system stops looking for trouble around every corner.
Yeah.
And it stops expecting
extreme
trouble.
Vigilance stops.
And then I like to do something, it's probably not original, but I like the term sparking joy. Now, I know Marie Kondo sort of talks about that, but I've sort of taken that term, and someone else has done it. There's nothing new on this planet, is there? But this idea that you literally, and this is probably Buddhist philosophy also, that maybe it's coffee that you love. And this is a massive hack. Even if you find it difficult to do all the other stuff, if you continuously calm your nervous system and give yourself some love every day, and then you put good stuff in, you will rewire your nervous system. It's inevitable. It's a bit long, but it's inevitable. And you spark joy every day by becoming that coffee smell, losing yourself in the ritual of it. Or sometimes I'm picking my flowers off my terrace, and I just get lost in the color of that flower, or the shape, the architecture.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And I can I literally have trained my brain, and it went really quickly because it just did, because I loved this feeling so much. And you literally become one with that color or that flower or that texture or that smell or that taste, and it becomes you. It's just, and that is a spiritual practice, is it not? But that brings you
But it's also a calming the nervous system practice.
Absolutely. And it's putting the good stuff in. So then it's stimulating the release of good chemistry. And so then you have a decrease in the chemicals you don't want. So whichever way you look at it, it's amazing.
Awesome.
And that's just one I particularly love. You can use sound.
Well, thank you very, very much for this one, so that we can leave with that. And if some of our listeners are experiencing chronic pain, they can start with that, which is even if they don't, by the way, even if you don't experience any pain, just go and do that. It feels like fun.
If you go and do that, you'll unprime yourself.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one too.
Prime, yeah, how can you unprime? Anyway, it's a good practice to do.
Well, thank you very much, Tracey. We've gone on for 45 minutes already, so I'm gonna and I forgot to say at the beginning that
carried away.
I was hoping I was hoping for 45 minutes and not too much longer. So thank you very much. I might invite you again, because this is such a fascinating subject. So if you guys want to know more about how to work with Tracey, you will find descriptions and links of her website, her email, and her free Facebook group that has the that's called Rewire Your Brain, Reduce Your Pain. So you can join at any moment, and you will have her free tips and tricks. Or you will find everything above the video or below the video. If you're listening to this on the podcast, all the links again will be in the podcast description.
And I want questions. Please contact me and ask me.
Obviously,
to help you with your story. I personally believe that I went through everything. Oh, and join the summit so you hear more.
Yeah, that's the last thing I was going to. But we have a question. Can we hear the replay? Yes, I said that at the beginning. This is going to stay on all my channels, so forever. So basically, but you can also see it listen to it on my podcast. So iTunes, Spotify, and very soon on Tracey's YouTube channel as well as mine. So yes, the replay is going to be there for you guys. And the last thing that I wanted to say, because we're 2 weeks away, is that I am honored to have Tracey as one of the speakers of the Women Lighting the Way Summit, which is the second edition of this summit, who encompasses 13 women telling their stories. Can you see how the story thing now has a connection? And our idea with Chris Wallace when we created the summit was to have the stories of all these women to light the way for all the other women to follow. And so if you want to join that, it's a free summit. You can listen to all the talks for free for a week. You will find the link again in the description everywhere. And we are getting really excited because I've been listening to some of the talks, and OMG, they are blowing my head off. So, yeah. And Tracey is one of the amazing speakers in there. So that's one way you can, listen to her more, which I'm pretty sure you will not have enough with just 45 minutes. So thanks again so much for coming. Do you have anything that you want to add?
No, just reach out with me, share your stories. If I can help, I feel like I was put on this earth. I feel like I'm living what I was meant to be doing, putting this stuff together and helping people who are suffering and struggling. And reach out, find a way. There are lots of awesome freebies and gifts, not just from me, but from the other speakers.
Yeah, This is amazing. I mean, thank you so much for
I
this.
loved
And
it. You couldn't shut me up.
not thank you for talking on my podcast. I was going for wider. I was going, thank you for what you're doing for the world.
Thank you.
And yeah, and I hope to see you soon again. If you guys want to reach out to me, well, you know where to find me. This little podcast thing is going to happen once a month. I have no clue who's going to be my guest in September. If it's you, just reach out to me if you want to be on this, and when you want to talk about things we don't talk about, like chronic pain or
Viva
what
la
did we talk about?
vulva, as I like to call it.
Oh yeah, we might go on a vagina episode one of those days.
That's a must.
Well, thank you very much to Tracy and to each and every one of you. See you around. Bye for now.
Bye.